And the 4 cups of wine on Pesach correspond to these 4 different expressions of redemption, all the way to the Koish Liliyo, Elijah's cup, which is also referencing to the 5th expression, Ve'ivesi eschem el ha'oretz, I'm going to bring you into the land. What bring you into the land means that I'm going to provide for you the ultimate redemption, which the ultimate redemption, according to our prophets, is going to be introduced by the great announcement coming by the great prophet Eliyahu Hanavi. As the pasuk says, Hinei, behold, Onoichi sheleach lochem, I'm sending to you as Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, Lifnei bo yoim Hashem hagodel ve'anoiro, before the arrival of this great and awesome day, ve'eshiv leiv avos habanim, will return the heart of fathers to their children, ve'leiv banim al avoisam, and this is the prophecy which introduces the arrival of Elijah the prophet as an introduction to the coming of Mashiach. And that cup, which we place on the Seder table towards the end, called Kos Shel Eliyahu, the cup of Eliyahu, which means Elijah the prophet, is also associated with the fact that the redemption, the Geula from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, is connected in an introduction to the ultimate Geula, to the final redemption, which we are going to experience all the way at the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen. As the prophet also says, Ki yemei teischo mi'eretz Mitzrayim arenu nifloes, that the wonders that you are going to see at the ultimate redemption is going to be similar to what you saw at the time when you had left Egypt. This is what the Parsha begins. Then Moshe is being given the ultimate mission to go ahead together with his brother Aaron to go over to Paroi and ask him and inform him about the liberation of the Jewish people in Egypt. When God tells Moshe about the job which he's just proposing to him, the job of becoming the ultimate Redeemer, Moshe Rabbeinu originally refuses. And he tells God on page 320, verse 12, Hey Bnei Yisrael lo yishomu elai, the children of Israel have not listened to me, ve'eich yishmo'eni paroi, and how will Paroi listen to me, va'ani araz fosai, and I have sealed lips. Sealed lips, which here is referring to a physiological issue that Moshe was dealing with since being a child, a disability in expressing himself too well. There's a story in the Medrash which relates how Moshe actually burned his lips, his tongue, at the house of Paroi, and he ended up being a person which had very difficult time in verbally expressing himself properly. Aral Sfosai. Hashem tells Moshe, there's nothing to worry. I'm introducing to you a spokesman. I need you to go together with him. Who is your spokesman? Achshelcha, exactly. Your brother, Aaron. This is later on the next page, 322, verse 30. Again, when Moshe says, but how am I going to speak? Hein ania ras vasai ve'eich Ishmaelai Paroi. How would Paroi listen to me? Behold, I have sealed lips. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, Re'ei nesaticha elikim leParoi. I have made you a master over Paroi, but ve'aroi nochicha iye neviecha. Aaron, your brother, shall be your spokesman.
Where does this business come from about Pharaoh and the burning Moses?
What?
Where did this story come from?
In the Medrash.
I always thought he had a stutter.
The stutter, that's what we're referring to. That stutter was not a stutter that he was born with. It was a stutter that he was adapting through an incident where he had his a coal, a fire, brought into his mouth. Incidentally. Mm-hmm. So Aaron becomes the spokesman. In between introducing Moshe and Aaron on that mission, the Torah seemingly deviates with going over again the lineage of Moshe and Aaron. Who is Moshe and Aaron? Who their parents were. And it's very interesting that when the Torah comes and discusses the lineage of Moshe and Aaron in these 10, 15 verses, it doesn't usually, anytime we are going to discuss Toldot, lineage in the Torah, which it's mentioned more than once and more than twice, a number of times that the lineage is being recorded, usually we see and we are mentioning the fathers. Mm-hmm. Because lineage goes to the fathers. The mother defines who you are. The mother says if you're Jewish or not. So if it's a Jewish mother, then you are a Jew. But what tribe you belong and what's your yichas, that goes according to the father. It's paternal. Whether you are Cohen or a Levi or a Reuvenite or a Shimonite or a Levi, a Yehudite, that all depends on the father. And that's why usually when Torah records lineage, yichus, it mentions the father's name. In this short so-called deviation from the story by recording the lineage of Moshe and Aaron, the Torah also specifically mentions who the mother was. By saying that it was Amram who married Yocheved, and it was Amram who married Yocheved who gave birth to Aaron and Moshe. And as it's being discussed, and the Rebbe emphasizes it in a few places in the Sichas, the Rebbe talks about the fact that who really carved and molded Moshe and Aaron to be the Moshe and Aaron he was, it's really the mother. It was the Yocheved, this woman, Yocheved, who with your self-sacrifice, which we have learned in last week's Parsha, despite the decree of Paroi not to allow any born babies, she still continued and kept up the birth and putting her life in danger in order to ensure the continuity of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people. So that's why the Torah finds it necessary to mention her name too. Matter of fact, there are two other individuals in this very short lineage recorded paragraph, which also their mothers are mentioned, and seemingly for the very same reason. It talks about who Aaron married, talks about that he married Elisheva, the mother of Nadav and Abihu and Elazar and Itamar, which Elazar was also serving as a leader even during Moshe's time with the story of the Midianites, and Moshe was very upset, so Elazar took charge. And then it also mentioned who Pinchas's mother was. Elazar married a girl from Putiel, a daughter of Yisroi, and she gave birth to Pinchas. Again, Pinchas also expressed a very responsible task of leadership. So these three individuals are also mentioned by their mothers, and that's what the Rebbe says, because these three individuals are really It's important to know who their mothers was, because that type of lifestyle requires not only a good father, but a very special mother. So this is that the Torah continues, and then we are going into the story of Paroi. The story of Paroi and the 10 plagues. This is the story of this week's Parsha. 7 of the 10 is going to be recorded in this week's Parsha, and the last 3 we are going to read in next week's Parsha, and next week's Parsha we're actually going to get on a Egypt too, following the plague of the firstborn, Makat Porot. This is the balance of this Parsha. The first 7 plagues. 7 out of 10. There is a very famous discussion which every classic commentator discusses. And we will try tonight also to give a little insight into that very famous question. We all know the question. This question was a question that, to use a modern day context, so if some of you even remember, in the summer of 1960, when the Prime Minister of Israel got on stage declaring to the whole world and to the Jewish world that Eichmann is in our hands. The story of cutting Eichmann in Buenos Aires in Argentina in the summer of 1960. Some of you watched the movie, Catching of Eichmann, and some of you maybe remember. Everybody's looking back, the other guy remembers. It's okay. Arnold, who were you when they announced the Catching of Eichmann?
1960.
Do you remember it being as a part of the big news?
Being what?
As being as a part of the headlines? Do you remember it?
Of course, sure.
Yeah.
Of course,
You remember it too?
sure. Yeah.
So obviously it was a big piece of news. It was, and this is the guy who was in charge on the death trains to the concentration camps. That was Eichmann, Machshemoy. He was catched and he was brought to Israel. This obviously brought back, if you have to use the word brought back, it obviously uncovered the pain and the wounds which was hidden and placed in the hearts of so many millions of people. All the different stations of television and radio, the whole world was involved in this powerful story. But somehow this Eichmann was not planning to leave the world so quickly. Instead of getting up and saying, this is what happened, and I'm sorry, or whatever, his lawyer found a legal claim against the fact of everything that he was involved in. What was the legal claim? Anybody recalls? The legal claim was, I was just a small screw in this big operation of destruction. I just followed orders. Or, as someone else would use the words, I had no choice. Everybody was doing it. Everybody had to do it. And here the Israeli government had to spend effort and money and time to reject that claim. And to actually prove that not only wasn't that he had to do it, but he was actually an initiator in that mass destruction of the Holocaust. So Eichmann's claim was rejected. But there's another criminal, 3,000 years earlier, which perhaps he would have a valid claim. Who? Power. What happens to power? Right in the beginning of the mission, just turn to page 324. It's mentioned many times, repeats itself later. But God lets Paro Moshe know. Vani akshe slave Paro. I shall harden Paro's heart. And I shall multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. God says, I'm going to make sure that Paroi will not listen to you. And then I can put my hand over them and give Mitzrayim what they deserve. And as you go on the story of the Makos, of the plagues, you see after each and every Mako, there is clear direction into Paro's heart, a channel which lets them know, Paro, don't give in. And who is the one who makes sure that Paro doesn't give in and let the people go? Is God himself. He is the one who initiates this whole stubbornness of Paro. Even more than that, if you go back 1,000 years, before the story of Paro, when it was the famous experience which Avram is experiencing at the Bris Bein Absorim, known as the covenant between the parts. You remember the story in Parsha Lech Lecha? Mm-hmm. And God tells Avram, you're going to have children. And they're going to have many, many children. And they are going to become a whole nation. But that nation is going to be what? Enslaved in a land not theirs. And in that land they're going to be Avodum ve'inu oisom arba me'oishana. 400 years they're going to be enslaved with much pain and suffering. And afterwards, ve'acharei ein yetzu berechush godel, they will live with great wealth. This is something which God is telling Avraham at the covenant between the parts. B'bris bein absorim. So what does Paro do? Paro chooses to assist God in his promise. Somebody has to do the job. Mm. So Paro says, Rabbi Shloilam, I see you have a plan for your people. Somebody has to do it. I'm volunteering. What's wrong? Someone has to do the job. If it wouldn't be Paro, it would be somebody else. So Paro says, I'm the one doing it. Does he deserve such patch? Does he deserve such makkah, such plagues? Just by picking up the mission, so to speak, of inflicting and enslaving Am Yisrael, the Jewish people.
So if you're going to look this way, of course, Aman you can...
Same way, yeah.
Do Aman.
By Aman, it doesn't say. It doesn't say that he had to do it.
Aman did good things. So.
I'm not saying about the good things he did. Does it say anywhere, is there any instructions to Haman to go and destroy the Jewish people? No.
He did by himself.
Okay. But Paro is following instructions.
Too well.
He's following instructions. The Ramban, Nachmanides, and his commentary to Shmo, chapter 7, you know what he says? He says it in 5 words. Ashe'ela asher yishalu hakol. He says, the question that everybody is going to ask, and everybody asks. Im Hashem iksho es liboy, if God had hardened his heart, ma pishoy, what is his crime? So Nachmanides says, this is a question that we all asking. Everybody is asking that question. And the question is not only about Paroi. The question is a question that every person can ask himself in regarding to the topic which is called free choice. Seemingly, so to speak, and we believe that that's the truth, but someone can say, seemingly in his words, I'm using seemingly in quotation marks, I don't have the choice. I don't have the choice, the right choice to make. Look, Rabbi Farkash was born and raised in Jerusalem. His father put on tefillin and went to shul every day. And his grandfather put on tefillin and went to shul every day. In the old building, went to shul and davened every day. And everybody in the neighborhood went to shul and davened every day. And the old neighborhood kept Shabbos. And that was the environment that he grew up. And that's the cheder he was sent. And that's the yeshiva he was kept. And then with the woman he married from the same background. No wonder that he comes to shul and he puts on his tefillin and his davens. He was molded in a way that this is his life. He has to be meshuggah to decide to choose another life. It's very warm and cozy to continue in the life that you were brought up. He didn't choose it. He was directed to it. But me, John, who was born in Timbuktu, and nobody in my neighborhood put on tefillin, and no one in the neighborhood kept Shabbos, and no one even knew what a Jew meant. Happens to be my parents are Jewish. Can you expect me to live a lifestyle of observance, of following Torah and rituals? I was never raised in that way. And it was before television and before internet, so I didn't even know what it means. Like this, you can tell me I should have read Chabad.org, for sure you heard about. So you went on the Chabad.org and you saw and you read, but there was no internet and there was no website. And I absolutely have no idea what is expected. And that's why I live the life I live. Is there a real concept of choice? I made a choice. You made a choice. Seemingly our choices are very much directed by the environment we live in. In a good neighborhood, you're going to grow up to be a nice person. You grow up in a bad neighborhood, it can very, very well be that you're going to learn from your bad neighbors. Doesn't the Rambam says, get out of bad neighborhoods? Go to the desert, he says. Why? Because they are going to have an impact on you. They're going to have an influence on you. You sit in a restaurant or in a place of work, and during lunchtime everybody is joking about things that we're not even allowed to joke about in a synagogue. But if that's what everybody else does, what are you going to be, a stranger? A loner? So you also follow along, and you also joke along with them. If you live in an environment which is serious and more gentle in their expressions, so that's how you behave. Where is the real choice? Where is the real choice that we tell a person, Hineni noisein lecho es hachayim es hatoiv, I give you life and good, and I give you death and evil, and I ask you to please choose life. I don't know if you can say many people have real choices to make. There's opportunities. Someone has a better opportunity, someone has a less better. Someone is more advantaged, someone has less advantage. My parents didn't send me to school. They couldn't afford it, someone says. And thank God my parents did. What does it mean, choice? This is really the question not only about Paroi, where was his real choice and why was he punished. It's a question that we can ask and we should ask ourselves. Are we making real choices? Are we or aren't we? Paroi went through a very difficult period during that year of the plagues. It started up with all the water's turning into blood. All the streets getting filled with frogs, svardeya. The body is scratching from lice, kinning. 3 days, complete darkness. I mean, you read the story. You know how long it took for the plagues?
A year.
It took them a year. The Medrash actually discusses, if you want to take a look in the Medrash, it's actually a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, there's a tract in the Talmud called Eidiyos, and the Mishnah says, Mishpat doira mabul 12 chodesh. Mishpat ha-Mitzrim 12 chodesh. Mishpat reshoim bege'enom 12 chodesh. The flood, the judgment of the generation of the flood was for 12 months, counting everything all together. The Mishnah says the judgment of Mitzrayim was also 12 months. Matter of fact, a neshama, after 120 years, a neshama who has to go through Gehenna, a real Rasha, a wicked man, has to be in Gehenna also a year, 12 months. By the way, that's why when it comes to say Kaddish for a loved one, we never say Kaddish more than 11 months. Even though Kaddish is to so-called also assist the neshama, help the soul through the journey up there. But we never say Kaddish more than 11 months. It says in the holy books that the reason is because if you say Kaddish for 12 months, it's as if you consider the person who died as being a wicked man who needs to be the entire 12 months in Gehenna. And it's a disrespect to your father, a disrespect to your mother, to consider them wicked. So you have to say it only 11 months, not a day more. But it's 12 months, and the Mishnah is being discussed in the Medrash. The Medrash brings a proof from the fact that the Torah tells us that when Paro sent the people out to work harder after Moshe came with that request to let them out, so they went and they were harvesting the straw. And that was in the month of spring. And when did they leave Egypt? A year later, also spring. So the Medrash makes this whole calculation that basically it took 12 months. 12 months. Moshe was screaming on Paroi. Paroi was screaming on Moshe in the second month of Iyar. Moshe went back to Midian for 2 months and so. Came back in the month of Tammuz. Tammuz is when the plagues actually began. Every plague was spread out to about a month. And you have 10 months from Tammuz till Nisan. This is the 10 months which Paro was plagued together with the entire Egypt. Each plague took a month. This is what is being discussed. So during those 10 months, the Egyptians are suffering terribly, terribly, in every aspect of their life. Body, belongings, homes, animals, everything. And here's where the question comes of the commentary. What does God want from Egypt? What do you want from them? Number one, he himself said, what did Hashem say? You should enslave them and have them suffer. So they're doing the mitzvah of having the Jews enslaved and suffer. Not only that, from the first moment, he didn't even give Paro the opportunity to do tshuva. Every time you think he might do tshuva, he might repent for his behavior, God comes, gives him a kvetch on his heart, and Paro says, oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not letting you go. This is the pasuk. You go to Paro, Vani Akshes leif Paro, I'm going to harden his heart. Velo Yishma Alechem Paro. Paro is not going to listen to you. This is the verse we just read. This old mission of Moshe seems like a game. Like a game. Atzaga. Nachon, Yuri? I will give you an answer. I'm going to walk away tonight with an answer. But also it's important for a moment to realize the importance of free choice. There is a Gemara, the Alter Rebbe starts the Tanya with this Gemara. It's in the Tractate of Nida. See? This is the Gemara, a very famous Gemara that Alter Rebbe starts the old Tanya with this Gemara. Listen to what the Gemara says. Dorish Rab Chanina bar Papa. Rab Chanina bar Papa expanded and he spoke the following. There is an angel which is in charge to oversee the conception of a new embryo. His name is actually Laila. The name of the angel. Malach HaMemuneh al HaErayon, Laila Shmo. His name is Laila. That angel, who is in charge of conception, says the Gemara, the angel takes the drop of semen from which a child will be conceived and sets it before God. And says before God, tell me, Rabbi Shalom, Master of the universe, Tipo zu mate oleo. This drop, what is its destiny? What is it going up to be? Giboy chalosh. Will the person who develops from this drop, will he be mighty, gibor? Or perhaps he would be chalosh, weak. Chacham or tipesh? Would he be, when he grows up, intelligent? Or tipesh, foolish? Ashir or yoni? Would it be wealthy or poor? Everything is being determined. Says the Gemara, but the angel says everything. But Rasha or Tzaddik, like Omar. The angel does not mention whether the child is destined to be wicked or righteous. You know why? Because Akal b'dei shamayim chutz mi'ira shamayim. To be wicked or righteous is your choice. Everything can be determined. Wealth, poverty, strong, a schwachinkel, a healthy boy, else everything can be clear. But when it comes to what is your status as far as your relationship with God, Laila is not saying in the matter. God is not saying in the matter similarly. It's all being left in your hands. Right? Always say that story with a child coming with a fly in his hand, wanting to challenge his teacher. The teacher knows everything. So he asked the teacher, tell me, the fly in my hand, is it alive or dead? Lizzie's not going to like it. What did the teacher say? It's all in your hands. Right? You can give it a kvetch, and it's done. You can open your hand, and it flies out. Tzadik v'rosh Eloka Omar. How much wisdom, how much money, how much strength. You know, there's other Gemaras. I don't want to get into the whole discussion. There's a Gemara in Tractate Sota. The Gemara tells you that there is an angel who tells you by conception who you will marry. Also decided. Everything is decided. With all that, one thing is doesn't decide is what is our level of Yirat Shamayim? What is our level of commitment, of devotion to God? This is something that we have to do. This is what we call atzmaut. You know what atzmaut means? Independence. Totally independent. You are the one who can determine what it should be and how it should be. There's a lot of examples about people who made a choice of tshuva. You want to hear a Gemara? I see you like a Gemara story. You want to hear another Gemara story? Let me show you a Gemara story of making a choice. Hold on. Okay, this time we're dedicating the story for Arnold. Let's see. Nothing yet.
Yeah, but you could talk about it.
Oh, listen to a good story. You know the story with Rish Lakish?
With what?
Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan.
Kishlaki?
The best looking rabbi. You know who was the best looking rabbi?
You.
No, before me. The one who looked like me was Rabbi Yochanan. And the Talmud in Bava Metzia, page 84, discusses in great length his beauty and his insight and all kinds of wonderful stories about this great Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, you have to remember, he was the Rebbe in Israel. He was the leading Talmudic sage of Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara a story. One day, Yom Echad, Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Jordan River. You know this story? No. Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Jordan River. The rabbi also needs once in a while go take a swim. Yeah, Rabbi Farkash, once in a while go take a swim. So he went to swim in the Jordan River, and who was there? Rish Lakish saw him. Now, who was Rish Lakish? Rish Lakish was a person, as the Gemara described, he was the head of these gangsters. He was the head of the gang. And Rish Lakish jumped into the Jordan River after him. So Rabbi Yochanan turns to Rish Lakish and he says to him, your strength belongs to Torah. Meaning a guy like you, he was so strong, so powerful. The stories about his strength. You should use your strength and go into yeshiva, sit down, put your effort into learning. Something good will come out of you. So Rish Lakish responds to him and he says, and your beauty belongs to women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So Rabbi Yochanan says to him, listen, I see you appreciate beauty. He says, if you will repent your way, if you go and you use your kochos, your strength into learning, I will give you my sister, allow you to marry my sister, who is even more beautiful than I. And Rish Lakish accepted the offer. He went, he studied, the Shavye Gabe Rabbe, and he became into this great man, who one of the greatest Talmudic sages is Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, the leading rabbis of Israel, who met up with Rabbi Yochanan at a swim in the Jordan River. Previously he was the head of a gangster. He is one of the famous, what we call today, Baalei Tshuva. But this Baal Tshuva is one of the biggest rabbis in the Talmud, Rish Lakish. Made a choice. There are many stories like this of choosing and changing your life based on your choice. God gave you the ability that if you want, you can change. Never is a person tested with a challenge that he cannot stand by it. You always have the ability to overcome your challenges. Always. This is the essence of human creation. is to choose. B'tzelem Elokim Oslo Es Adam, the image of God, our commentaries tell us, is the ability to choose. So obviously, Paroi also had the right to choose. But how was he able to choose? And what went wrong with his choice? So there's obviously many answers to this question, right? Many answers to the question. I will give you an answer based on a story. Not today, in stories. This is a Hasidic story. This was in the time of the Tsar. An old Hasidic story. The Tsar Nikolai, the first Nikolai, he was a very cruel man and a very passionate Christian, very strong. And one of his missions was to convert as many Jews as possible. And he came up with this plan of taking little kids, drafting them to the army, and serving them for 25 years. And during this 25 years, they are removed from their community, away from their families, no schooling, no education, no Yiddishkeit, no environment, garnished, eating only treif, and never a chance to keep Shabbos, and onward and onward. And you can imagine coming back after 25 years, being drafted in Nikolai's army, very little did you have a chance to remember that you are a Jew. What does it even mean? What does it even mean to be Jewish? Yes, this was called the Kantonistin. Mm-hmm. And there is very interesting stories about the Kantonistin. And this happened in the times of the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek is the third Rebbe, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe. He was the Rebbe during that very difficult time of Kantonistin. Matter of fact, the Rebbe before the Tzemach Tzedek, known as the Mithaler Rebbe, the Dov Ber, who lived in Lubavitch. But when he heard about this decree to unfold, he decided to travel from Lubavitch through Haditch. Haditch is a small little place where the Alter Rebbe of Shneur Zalman is buried. Tonight, matter of fact, the 24th of Teves, tonight is the yortzeit of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe passed away, Chav Dalet Teves, the 24th of Teves, Tov Kuf Ayin Tes, 200 and over 200. Sorry, Tov Kuf Ayin. Yeah, about a little over 200 years ago. And he was buried in Haditch. There's a reason why he was buried in Haditch. The Alter Rebbe obviously was running away from Napoleon.
Where is Haditch?
Haditch today it's in Ukraine.
Uh-huh.
It used to be Russia. The Alter Rebbe was running away from Napoleon. Napoleon then came into Moscow. The Alter Rebbe was actually on the side of the Tsar in the war between Napoleon and the Tsar. He felt it would be better for the Jews if the Tsar wins. And he was running, and then during that escape, that winter, the Alter Rebbe passed away, Nirkram and Chug, and he was taken to be buried in Haditch. I was in Haditch a few times already. This last summer I was there also. But it's very far from Lubavitch. And on a horse and buggy it's even further. But his son, the Alter Rebbe's son, the Mithaler Rebbe, when he heard about this decree, he wanted very much to go pray on the gravesite of his father, the Alter Rebbe, and he traveled a very difficult traveling to Haditch to pray at the site of his father for the well-being of the future of Jews. Unfortunately, he became very sick on that trip, and nearby lived his son in a city not nearby to Haditch called Niezhin. And here the Mithaler Rebbe went to his son. A few days later, he passed away during that trip. I was also in Yezhin. Even today, it's like in a car, it's about an hour from Adish to Yezhin, where the Mittel Rebbe is buried. And now we're talking about the third Rebbe. This is the Mittel Rebbe's son-in-law, the Menachem Mendel, the Tzemach Tzedek. So he was in a difficult time when the decree unfortunately unfolded Russia. It was very difficult. But there is all kinds of stories about Kantonistin who came to visit the Rebbe. One of the stories is that a group of Kantonistin came to see the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek. And they told the Rebbe how difficult their life is. There's basically, in order to remain alive, you have to eat treif. There's nothing else to eat. They specifically made it in a way that there was no option to be vegan, right? To live on sushi and vegetables. This is it. They only make like a soup, which the soup was immersed with chazer, schmaltz. Everything was ensured that there's no option for you. If you want to survive, there's no option for you to consider even of keeping up to your standards, or even less than your standards, keeping up to any level of kashrut. So there is the young group of boys were expressing their hardship to the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek. Say, Rebbe, this is what we have. What should we do? Should we stop eating? Should we really stop eating? Is this what we should do? Should we die? Should we fast and maybe die? That's our life. You know what the Tzemach Tzedek told them? He says, Kinderlach. No, don't stop eating. Tamshichu lechol. Keep on eating, but don't lick your fingers.
But don't what?
Don't lick your fingers.
Enjoy it.
So you can eat
Oh,
to sustain yourself, but don't enjoy it.
Eat. Sometimes we eat, and if it's very delicious, so we also take the residue attached to our fingers, and we get a lick. Not to miss the extra opportunity of the geschmack of the joy and the choicest taste. So Tzemach Tzedek says, Kinderlach, if you have to eat, eat. You're not going to survive without eating. You don't have to lick your fingers. Hashem tells Paroi, you mamzer Paroi. Yes, there was a decree that my people should be enslaved in a foreign country. Nachon. But to lick your fingers, that was already your choice. You choose with your own evil art. You made a personal decision that I have the strength to put people down. Did I ever decree young babies to be thrown into the Nile River? Was this described in the decree of the 400 years in Egypt? Did that say in that decree that I want my kids in the river thrown into the Nile River? Look, that was your evil choice. This is where you were licking your fingers and you said, aha, let me take advantage of the opportunity that I have being representing God's mission in enslaving the Jews. Let me do it with vitality, with energy, with fire. What was the word you used before? He says, he said a good word before, 3 words.
That he did it too well.
Too well. For doing it is one thing. For doing it too well.
With pleasure.
Yes.
With pleasure.
Oh,
Yeah.
he licked the finger.
Yeah.
For the deeds is not necessarily what he was punished. What he was punished for using his evil hardiness. With his evil hardiness. There's actually an example that the Rebbe brings in regard a story from Tanakh, the story of Shimshon. In the end of Shimshon's life, the famous Samson, the mighty Samson, so the Plishtim, Philistines, got a hold of him. They succeeded to capture him And what did they do to him? Remember what they did?
Eyes.
They poked his eyes. And the Gemara tells us, why was it with his eyes? What happened to the eyes? What did they want from the eyes? Wanneer was die alle Gemara? Nou, was die alle Gemara. Okay. Listen to what the Gemara says. What did the Gemara say?
Couldn't cut somebody else off.
Ah. Okay, I don't see this Gemara.
I just cut the wall.
It says the word. Okay, I don't see the English one. Let me read it to you in the Hebrew one. Listen to what the Gemara says about Shimshon.
Kimshin.
Shimshon.
Kimshin.
The Gemara talks about everything that happened to Shimshon, all the way to the point, his lifestyle, and all the verses which talks about Shimshon, which he was actually one of the judges. 22 years he was a judge of Am Yisrael, but eventually he was taken by those Plishtim, and they poked his eyes. And why his eyes? What does the Gemara say? Listen to that a second. Tesomit Beis. And also, because he was looking. Where is the pasuk? He was looking. Vayar. Shimshon olach achareinov. Oh, Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Shimshon olach achareinov. Shimshon was following his eyes. When he married this Philistine woman, he was following his eyes. And therefore, he ended up a life which he dealt, and he had to suffer through his eyes. And the Gemara says, what do you mean? There's all verses which indicate that God wanted him, that Shimshon should want this woman, so in order for him to start with the Philistine, so they should fight with him, so he can fight them back. It was all prearranged. What do you want from Simpson? Says the Gemara says, yes, God wanted him to marry a woman from Palestine. But when he went to look, it wasn't looking only what God wanted. If you're ready, ape shine! If I have to choose a woman from the Philistine, let me see something which fits and adds up with my personal desires too. This is what we said before. Gelect the finger. It's enough that you have the ability and you're in a situation that you need to behave in a certain manner, but you have no excuse for licking your fingers. I remember in school, we learned Tanya. And Tanya, the Alter Rebbe talks about there is a level of klipa, which is the powers of evil called klipa snoiga, meaning it's the klipa which is mixed with some little bit of good. And then there is the sholish klipas atmeya, something which is completely impure. And the Alter Rebbe says the difference is that that which comes from klipa snoiga can be elevated. That which belongs to the three evil klipas is locked up, can never be elevated, can never be refined. And the teacher in school tried to explain to us the difference. He said like this: you drink a tea. Is it klipas noga or is it klipas atmeyas? Where does the tea belong? A tea as an option. You can drink a tea and get the strength and the rejuvenation of the tea and go daven better, learn better. Or you can do bad things. That's called klipas noiga. It's mixed. But after you say you drink a tea, you go, ah. What is that? Ah. This is really your personal pleasure. No, this doesn't belong anywhere in the Balkan Kiddush. You never see a tzaddik drinking a tea and going afterwards, ah. What's the ha? This is what we say was Paro's issue. And this is actually what we spoke before about our own choices. Yes, many times we have no choices. You're right. Seemingly we don't always have a choice. But we do have a choice how to live the life that we are living. So I didn't learn. I don't know much. Therefore I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to abuse it. Or, you know what I mean, right? Jerry. You have to be honest. When I'm eating what we're not supposed to eat, because we are unfortunately out of our control, and when I'm licking our fingers after that and say, no, ein pshoin, im kvar, how do they say in Hebrew? Im kvar, as kvar. If you're ready, so let me enjoy it all the way to the end. No. That's where your choice kicks in. And this is what Paro choose not to follow or to abuse the opportunity or the so-called the job, the mission that he was involved in. No, I think that's unimportant. If it doesn't answer the question, but I think it gives us a little insight into what happened to Paro this week and why does it deserve such markers. Everybody should have a wonderful good night and a wonderful week and a good Shabbos. We'll see you on Shabbos. Did somebody come in inside?